hosted by Congressman Ruiz of the California 25th District. This is where the monument is located. And in this reveal, I call it, because this is where he revealed to all his proponents, and I was able to get an invite to there, even though I was on the opposition. We found out that Congressman Ruiz had submitted a bill to Congress to try to get this done. I go, okay, that's the way it should be done, most of the time. And he stood on the stage and told everyone that night, I submitted this bill knowing full well it will never get through Congress, probably won't even get out of committee. He said, but I submitted it to show President Biden when I hand him this proclamation for the Antiquities Act to be signed as an executive order, that I am serious about wanting it, knowing full well it would never happen through Congress. I go, wow, that to me was a revelation. He needed to make this happen with the Antiquities Act if he was going to get it at all. That's how we kind of got started into this thing. So I started doing some research. Okay, what does the Antiquities Act really say? It was signed into law by President Teddy Roosevelt in June of 1906. And the act is very short. It's about a half a page. But one particular section kind of delineates how much land a president can protect using this act to bypass Congress to protect things of scientific and historical significance, either sites or objects. And the Antiquities Act says, concerning that amount of land, it says, the limit of which in all cases shall be confined to the smallest area compatible with the proper care and management of the objects to be protected. It's like, okay, let's use the reasonable person standard legal concept in order to figure out how small of an area I need to know what the object is that's being protected. That's just common sense. The coalition that put this together, coalition of conservationists and environmentalists, not only did they ignore that portion of the law, it's blatant abuse of it. So the coalition on page 2, in one sentence, basically this is saying we're ignoring the law. We're not going to do the smallest area compatible with the known object that we're going to protect. And it's mind-boggling why they even put this in the proclamation. But it reads, while only a small fraction of the region has been formally inventoried and a myriad of cultural resources have been documented, there are likely similar historic sites and objects yet to be discovered. So wait a minute. The Antiquities Act says you're going to use the smallest area to protect a known object. But here, the proclamation says we've only inventoried and documented a small fraction of the area. But because we think there's something else out there, we're just going to encompass the whole land and be done with it.
The coalition and people that are pro this national monument, they say that this is going to bring a lot of tourism. It's going to protect the land, the wildlife, and it's going to help the communities that are there. Why do you think this is bad for it to be so big?
Well, there's several reasons. First of all, it's an abuse of the Antiquities Act, which specifies you have to know what the object is.
So they have to really know what's
you have to know what's there, and then you use the smallest area there. But the fact that they admit that they've only documented and inventoried a small fraction of the area, and they're talking mainly about Native American cultural sites. And I get it. Let's save those. Let's save those sites because the coalition is saying that they are under danger. I'm not so sure that's true because the land, all of it, is already protected. 40% of that land was already under wilderness designation, which is the highest level of protection in this nation for lands. nearly all the other 60% was Bureau of Land Management National Conservation land, which has its own level of protection as well. I attended a meeting in December of 2023 with the Bureau of Land Management's Desert Advisory Council, which advises the BLM on management of their land. And in that meeting, we were talking about it because I brought it up to their attention that this was happening. And the BLM's Desert Assistant Manager, Desert District Assistant Manager, Greg Miller, stood up and said, a monument designation adds zero additional protection above what it already has, with the wilderness and the National Conservation Land designations. So it doesn't make sense. So I don't know enough about it, but I have to question, and I did, it's like, why do we need to add the monument designation to protect Native American cultural sites if they're already protected under these other designations now? And they ignored the question. They didn't want to answer that.
So we pulled it up. Can you show us where it is?
Sure. Inside the red border, in the yellow highlighted areas, that is what was designated as the Chuckwalla National Monument. Now, what you'll see inside that red area are a lot of white checkerboards. Those are all private properties of which the government cannot take. So one of the problems with this Chuckwalla National Monument is the owners of all these private properties that you see checkerboarded throughout the southern portion and the western portion mainly, they can no longer develop their land. It's an issue. First of all, they're landlocked. Many of those private properties do not have a Bureau of Land Management designated route to them.
So they cannot get to their land?
They cannot get to their land. Not all of them, but some of them cannot even get to their land anymore because the proclamation says only the current designated BLM routes can be utilized.
With this monument designation, what will happen to this private land? They cannot create new routes?
They cannot create new routes. They cannot develop their land.
They cannot
some
develop
of them
like
can't
building?
even
They cannot build anything on it?
Let's take, for instance, Shereko Summit. Shereko Summit is a very small community on Interstate 10 between the Coachella Valley and the Colorado River. It is kind of centralized. It's the only gas station. It is the only restaurant out there in the desert along the I-10 corridor. A lot of Americans and tourists use that Interstate 10 to go east and west. And this little community of Shereko Summit tries to provide amenities, gasoline, food. They would like to build a hotel and provide weary travelers, a place to stay without having to travel the extra hour or so either direction to find a hotel in either Blythe, California or down in Indio, California. But they can no longer do that.